As I mentioned in a previous video, the human soul, the biology, has its own consciousness, and that consciousness can be imprisoned within itself, or it can be cast off elsewhere into another body. Right now, we still think of, there's not enough housing, there's so much lack for humanity as it is. So human beings, are overpopulating the earth. That's the predominant pitch. When in fact, humanity is coming close to extinction. And if you think about it, we have the baby boom generation. They only wanted 2 kids. That reduced the number. And then infertility began to set in with the food supply and the ingredients in the food supply. And then add on top of that the LGBTQ2A plus community. This is not wrong. This is not for anybody to go out and cause any persecution of them. Leave them alone. Their soul's struggling just like the rest of us. As I mentioned in previous videos, these spirits, they gave an accounting of how they come in and possess bodies. And as I said, the one example where they gave their own account of how they do this was Tobias of the Crimson Circle, who went to inhabit a little boy named Sam for their agenda to have one good life on earth. And so Sam died young. And this Tobias entity admitted that they go in and they groomed Sam to take Sam over. Now I remember being the first time, when I started to learn how to channel information and guidance. And I was in a deep, relaxed meditation, and I always got messages for other people, and I wanted messages for myself. And so I just laid really still, got into meditative state, and I'm laying there, and the message is live, laugh, love. Very simple. And then all of a sudden I felt a male energy in me go, oh wow, I'm so relaxed. I could really sink my dick into a woman right now. And that shocked me, and it woke me up to how spirits can coexist in a body, because I never felt like a man, but I felt very masculine energies come into me. And at times I have embodied that because it just feels stronger. It feels more confident in the self. Mother Nature doesn't make mistakes. The human race, her expression, her ability to express herself in her own physical biology that manifests as human form, is on the verge of extinction. So if there are a lot of females being born who are not participating in the reproduction process, believing that they are men, or men who are mutilating their bodies because they believe they are women, that serves the agenda to keep the earth from evolving in consciousness, from expanding. So what we want to do is appreciate the human form in whatever gender it's born in. And for these physical bodies, the consciousness in our physical bodies, to claim themselves and push out these entities that come in. Now, these entities, there may be, a male entity in a female body or a female entity in a male body. It doesn't mean that they're one of those who intentionally did this. They're being cast there. They're being kept there. And what that can do, it can actually serve to move consciousness forward, because when you have the female in a male body accepting and encouraging the expression of both, that's like the twin flame energy. It actually speeds up. I mean, we have men and women, they can't even share a house together. So you have the male and the female cannot share a house, this energy. The divine feminine and the divine masculine, they can't share a living space. Now imagine if they could share a physical body where both are nourished. If it's a man in a female body, go to the red tent, give the female expression all that it needs to be healthy and whole. And at the same time, take care of the male expression, the construction, the building, the supporting, the physically manifesting of things. That will evolve mankind even faster. Because if you can do it in one body, you can show people how to do it in one home. So the intention is not to say, start going out and go exercise those demons, for the trans community. It's more encouraging them to give full expression to both aspects. And if it be true that it's a human consciousness, like on the other side of the world, when the man falls asleep, its consciousness is set into a female body here on this side of the world, expressing, angst, I'm really a man, what am I doing in this body? You can help that male consciousness to stay in its body on the other side of the world by building up the female biological expression. Or, as I mentioned before, build each other up. Let that female go into that male body, have a little experience there, how to encourage and not build the masculine expression in a male body. And of course, if you know for a fact that it is an entity that consciously groomed you for this experience, then you can cast that out. That's you can do that. That can happen. I remember I thought all people who were trans, they really hated their bodies. And I met one that said, no, they don't hate their body. But at the same time, they had their uterus removed, their breasts removed, and stuff like that. But they still rejoiced in their body, in their physical expression. And I can't speak to that. We all have to do what we have to do. So when we're talking about trans, we aren't always talking about, a man or a woman. We're talking about non-binary as well. So they're taking hormones and removing the organs that produce the hormones that support the gender expression. So when we remove the uterus, we remove the more female expression, the organs that produce the hormones that support a female expression. That's another thing. Like, hormones are there to support our expression. that, everybody looks like, oh, hormones, such trouble. No, hormones are not trouble. They're there to support us in our expression. So that's why we're seeing all that we're seeing nowadays. You do have those who are very, you know, you look to the leaders of these movements, and those you can be sure are consciously entering, a male entity entering a female form, or a female entity or male even pretending to enter her body. I mean, it's just, it's all chaos out there. But you can be sure that the ones taking the lead, who are just so proud of this, and they mock sexuality in those circles, like spankings and calling oneself trash, and the way they speak about themselves and about one another, and the way they ridicule human sexuality, it's sickening. It makes me sick. But these are entities who are rejoicing in being allowed to make fun of human sexuality as if we're just animals. And animals are, like dirt, not even worth considering as a part of the divine expression carrying divine consciousness, because they are. And we can be proud to be an animal. I mean, animals, they rescue people. They can embody healing energy and spirits, How many people prize their dog because it gives them comfort and makes them feel good about themselves. So, any thought, any thought pattern that makes us feel less about ourselves is wrong. We don't want to embrace and embody that. When we're younger, it serves if we are overly arrogant and we don't take other people into consideration. We're not realizing our impact on other people. It's normal for a teenager. They don't even know. Kids don't even know. They look around. They don't see the mess that they create. They just look for what they want or need, and then they move along and they leave a mess behind them. And it doesn't even register that they're putting a burden on somebody else to come clean up that mess. It's just their cognitive limitation due to their development. And we can encourage that self-awareness and the impact on others to develop more quickly by showing them, look, see, this is how this happens. And, don't wait until you're living on your own and wondering, well, why isn't the laundry done? Why don't I have clean clothes? Why don't I have, something to eat? Why don't I have a clean space to work in? It's the same thing. Cognitive development. You can't condemn somebody for not realizing it because they just haven't developed to that. But it can be encouraged that you realize the impact that you make on the world around you. That self-awareness. Gee, I come in and I feel all frustrated and little within myself, and so I see everything around me as little. Because if I'm little, I only deserve little. You go down on your partner, get real hard on them because you give them a hard time, you be mean to them because you're mean to yourself. Wake up to that pattern and stop that pattern, and you can start to see value, and you start to encourage them to see value in themselves. That only supports and uplifts you. And when you support and uplift yourself, those around you see how this can be done, and they have the opportunity to choose it for themselves. And so, with all that's going on, all the various reasons that we have people having really hard times being in their body, very difficult experiences in being in their body, present to them the various ways that this could happen. Sometimes it's cultural. You don't want to be male or female because your culture makes you feel like crap for being that. It limits you. It doesn't allow you to do the things that you want to do. In certain places, if you're female, you can't be educated in the school system. There are other ways to educate yourself. Not everybody's aware of that or has access to the books and the information and the people that they can do that with. But we really have to embrace our physical expression and nourish it and encourage it to be what it is. Because Mother Nature doesn't make mistakes. The human race is going on the verge of extinction, and it's just going to take one environmental disaster, and if the only people left are unable to procreate because they've torn out their uteruses, they've cut off their balls, like, the human race isn't going to exist anymore. And a lot of people would say, well, that's not a loss, definitely, to the earth. However, if you think about it, that limits the the fullness of her expression. We wouldn't be here, we wouldn't exist if she didn't want us. We're able to add dimension, add form. The human form is very graceful. I mean, she's got lots of lumbering giants out there, and the wind can dance and it can cause leaves to dance. However, the human form dancing is a whole different thing. There's an elegance that can be embodied there, a more uplifted, and I don't mean enlightening to compare to the New Age movement, but the lightness that we can embody and the magic that we can embody and express. Some of that can be unique to the human form. So we do want it to exist. We do want it to continue. And we can do that for ourselves individually. And we can present information if somebody comes to us and asks us questions or expresses angst and confusion. We could say, do you want different perceptions of why this could be? And according to the perception that they choose, because they're going to know on a deep soul level what it is. If you ask one trans person that I've socialized with over the last year, very much believes that they're from another realm, and it's a female in a male form. Affirm that. How can we get you home? Let's build up that male form of yours, the consciousness. Let's build that up so it can drive itself. It can be conscious and aware itself and let go of you, and you can go home. There's such a longing for home in so many people. And generally the answer is be at home within yourself. Come home to yourself. Bring all those feelings of home into your body. But you can't do that if you know you are not in your physical home. So we can find ways to bring everybody home. Everybody can be home. They can go home. There are ways. And it's just working with each individual's circumstances and allowing them to choose what's most comfortable, feels safest to them in order to do it. And I think that would be really, really empowering. It's so deep for me. It's such a passionate thing for me that these brothers and sisters and non-binary entities of the LGBTQ2A plus community, I always feel at home around them because, as I said before, my body's consciousness was cast out. And so I understand this. I understand how it happens. And I can't apologize that I've never had such a deep conflict, that predominantly the entities within this physical form have been female, so that I don't have that angst. But as I said before, I have the experience of a male entity expressing its consciousness in this body. And it didn't freak me out. I didn't feel, I was like, oh God, there's a dirty old man in here, you know? But all of my thoughts going and trying to break the chains of abuse, all my perceptions about a male entity, such as the one that was trying to inhabit my body and take the energy from it, there's nothing. This host was not friendly to it. It could not stay, and it can't get back in. It's trying. So, though it may not feel supportive, this expression, this video, is to support, to validate, to show why and how people can experience gender confusion and why that is a very real thing and that it should not be hated, it should not be attacked. How it's dealt with should be according to each case and what they need, what that experience needs. And sometimes, like the friend that I had who came to me and told me that, you know, they're going to have somebody, they're going to tell people to kill them because they couldn't bear it anymore. They were having ideologies that they didn't want to come to fruition. They didn't want to do these things. They saw their human face, and they knew it was their face. That was their body. So sometimes if the consciousness in the body cannot come forth, if it's been too suppressed and it's really not able to bring itself back into its human form to occupy it, sometimes they will choose to exit. And I have no doubt that that friend went and occupied that body. Whether or not they had to fight for it, I don't know. But the point is, we can do better. We can help one another. We can support one another as long as we're not trying to force it, not expressing hatred towards it, and acknowledging that, yeah, there are outside influences that are creating this, but we're not alone. We're not alone in this, in being able to discern what it is that's going on in our individual case. We're not alone in getting the support to go through whatever we have to go through in order to feel comfortable in our physical form, because this is my physical form. I'm going to protect it. I'm going to love it. I'm going to nourish it. I'm going to allow it to express itself as it was created, as it came into creation. sometimes we don't have the details of what we want. We have a feeling of what we want, and we expand where that feeling is fulfilled. And so there's part of the earth that expands into human form because that feels good. It resonates with the feeling that it wanted to expand and to experience. So when we say created, it doesn't mean that we had necessarily, like, the scientists building a robot. Okay, we need this connection here, we need this connection here. Is just, this is where this feeling can flow into. This is the space for this feeling. Like a kid with the blocks, the square and the round, and they got to put the star shape in the star shape hole, and just feeling its way. Okay, that star shape went into the star shape hole, and see the child feel around. The circle, the energy moved, it flowed into there. And so that is also being a creator. Just because you don't design a house, it doesn't mean you aren't creating a house, a place to call home. You're going into these spaces. No, that's not for me. No, that's not for me. But your desire was put in the mind of an architect somewhere. And it's go find where that architect had that house built for you to flow into. And so that's, the feminine energy and the masculine energy taking shape in the female form and the male form. And that's not to say women can't build houses or be architects. The earth is going to flow into where it's going to get the expression from. So this is not to isolate gender roles. It's to give an example of masculine and feminine energy. And of course, feminine energy is going to feel more flowy in a feminine body. There's a whole lot more flow going on. The flow every month, the flowing of emotions, the more willowiness of the female form. There's willow trees and there are oak trees. There are female forms and there are male forms. And in no way is that intended to feed gender roles, because there are very willowy male forms which have just as much validity in their expression, because that's where it felt good, that's where it flowed naturally. A very organic thing, allowing this to happen instead of trying to control the things around us because we believe that's what we need to feel good. I think we covered all the angles and tidbits here.